Philip Jenkins, a professor of history at Baylor University and co-director of the school's program on historical studies of religion, was curious about the amount of violence in Islam and Christianity right after the 9/11 attack, and did a study comparing the two. Dr. Jenkins is an ex-Catholic who now identifies as Episcopalian, so of course he would have a natural bias. However, in a 2010 interview on NPR, he said the Islamic scriptures in the Quran were actually far less bloody and less violent than those in the Bible. Dr. Jenkins then went on to cite various specific instances, including genocide in the Bible. Do you think Christianity is more violent than Islam? If so, please give us a call because the show is starting now. Hello, welcome to another episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host, John the Skeptic. This is the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time, where we talk to people about what they believe and why. And if you'd like to call us, you can at 1-512-991-9242, or you can call through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. Truth Wanted is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And each week that Truth Wanted goes on, we bring along a guest, and this week is no different. With us this week, we have Drew Bekius. Hello, Drew.
Hey, John, what a pleasure it is to join you.
Right. We actually met each other. We'll talk about this in a bit, but we actually met each other in person last year and spent a week together, and it was a hoot. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Where can we find you? What do you do, Drew? What do you do?
What do I do? Well, first of all, John, I just want to apologize for not having working video. So hopefully this ugly mug still will do the job. But no, it's a pleasure to be here. So again, thank you so much. Great to hang out. What do I do? Well, what I used to do was pastor God's global flock, all right? Reach the world for Jesus. And so I was an evangelical pastor for a number of years, eventually left all that behind. And now these days, a lot of what I do focuses on just helping advocate for more intentional living through a humanist lens, looking specifically at a more embodied humanism. And so helping folks kind of take a closer look at what is it that we value? What are our individual values? And how do we more fully live that out? Be it through a progressive humanist lens or be it through whatever your particular lens may be. But let's try and build a better world. Let's try and live out a healthier humanity and yes, truth, right? And seeking and living out what actually is rather than just simply what we would like it to be. So a little bit of a high level there for you, John. Will that do the trick?
It went over my head. No, it was great.
It was my tax records for you, John.
I'm not doing anything. I had the pleasure of meeting Drew last year down in Alabama, and we spent, was it like a week together? Or maybe a few days.
You know, I think our time there, I think the whole was open for 2 weeks where we were, the venue we were, the beach house was open for 2 weeks. I think we just caught each other for a day or two, but it was glorious. It felt like it was a whole month. It was amazing. It really did. Sit and bask in the gloriousness of John the Skeptic. It was phenomenal.
What I loved about you was how much like he's not here anymore. No, you are. What I love about you is how much respect you command without even doing anything. You are there and people are like, Drew is the man. Do you know what I mean?
It sounds to me like a bunch of smoke and mirrors and absolute bullshit. But yeah, whatever you say, I like what you're saying. Continue on.
Yeah, no, and just like the way you articulate things it was very inspiring. Now, whilst we were down there, I do this little thing when people leave their cell phones laying around, where I will take it without them knowing and then take loads of pictures of myself and put it back. Did I do that on your phone?
Oh. Shit, I
you didn't know?
about that. Yes, you did.
Oh, I did.
You did.
I like knowing how many pictures of me are on other people's phones. So just have a look. Feel free to.
They're out. They're out here.
Good. That's all
I may
want to know.
I may have uploaded them onto various websites without your consent. Right. I hope you don't mind.
Listen, once it's on your cell phone, they're yours. You do with them what you want. I don't mind. But there are a number of people who have hosted ACA shows or have been guests on ACA shows who have pictures of me on their cell phones, and some of them don't even realize.
Well, thank you for the reminder.
There you go. Just have a look at those later. So before we get started with today's show, we want to give you last week's results of the We Want the Truth, or the WWTT segment. So last week, we asked you what seems normal in the middle of the day, but is terrifying in the middle of the night. And we've got some of our favorite answers. So at number 3, Dirk Brothel, normal during the day, but terrifying at night. The sound of children screaming. I tell you, as a new father, the sound of children screaming in the middle of the day is terrifying, especially when you've got a 6-month-old. So I guess, I'm with you at night, definitely. Number 2, Know What 1653, normal during the day, but terrifying at night. A knock on the door. To be fair, I hide either way. Yeah, I do that. If someone rings in the middle of the day, you've got those cameras. I look at who's there and I go, I'm not dealing with that. So I get you. And at number 1, Bryn Star Media 1411. What's normal during the day, but terrifying at night? Hearing an ice cream truck. That's fair. Although, I don't know, going through pregnancy cravings, not me personally, but my wife, she would have loved an ice cream in the middle of the night. So maybe they're missing a trick there. So the prompt for this week.
Hold on, John. Have we seen the same horror movies? Because how can you not have absolute sheer terror curdle your spine if you hear an ice cream truck in the middle of the fucking night?
You've got to think about it this way. Am I scared of stuff, or do I really need ice cream?
Fair enough.
So that's where I'm at with it. So we got a prompt for this week. So you need to complete this question. If psychics are real, why didn't they predict blank? Drew, we gave this to you before the show. Have you come up with an answer for it?
So if psychics are real, why haven't they predicted blank? I guess I would just say anything with precision. Like, just give me just whatever you say, give it to me that way, because I don't see that. So I may have cheated a little bit, or at least looked for some inside information and Googled top psychic predictions. Okay. And let me tell you, these wins for these top psychic predictions are a little underwhelming. First of all, do you have any idea, brother, how many people predicted the coronavirus? Okay. So there's this one guy who predicted a worldwide influenza. There's this other, and I forget his name. Okay. It wasn't too memorable, I guess. But then we have Sylvia Brown. Sylvia Brown predicted a pneumonia-like virus, she says. A pneumonia-like virus that would seize the world.
Whoa.
And then leave the world just as quickly, quote, just as quickly as it arrived, and then resurface 10 years later. And she's credited apparently as being the number 1 predictor, right? I mean, really, man. First of all, has it left? So she's given credit that it did. It left just as quickly as it came. It's already gone, by the way. There is no more coronavirus.
Nobody gets it anymore.
It has left us. Okay, so is that right? And then they say, well, maybe, I guess we'll have to see 10 years from now whether or not it resurfaces as she predicts, but they count that as a win. There's this other guy, Craig Hamilton Parker, who predicted, get this, that Biden would win the 2020 election. How? So can I just want a psychic that can predict with precision, and something that the rest of us didn't see as an obvious result as well. I mean, what the hell? How is that anything? But the best one of all, I think, was a team of psychics that predicted back in 2018, that there would be a huge terrorist attack. I mean, some of this isn't really funny subject matter, right? But a huge terrorist attack on the U.S. and its government buildings, including the World Trade Center and the Twin Towers, that would happen in the year 2002. 2002.
Right.
Last I checked, none of this happened in 2002, right? So
No, right.
Can I just get something with precision? Because I don't know. It sounds a bit religious in its ambiguity and vagueness. Anyway, so that's mine. Maybe I went on a bit too long on that segment, but I just want some damn precision, my man.
I like that.
Just precision. Otherwise, it sounds like we're grasping at straws.
I mean, that comment probably wouldn't get chosen because it would take up a long time to read out. but I think great. My answer is a lot simpler.
Yes.
If psychics are real, why didn't they predict my answer to this question? Boom. Easy as that. I actually feel slightly, I spoke to you about this when we met last year, but I feel a little bit attacked about this because I have a background in spirituality. Like, I came from a spiritual background, and my family believed they were psychics, and I deconverted from that side of my belief because I wanted to learn how to be a psychic and speak to the dead people that I could apparently hear. So like, I'm like, they never predicted that I would become a non-believer because I researched how to be a psychic. So, what a load of rubbish. What a load of rubbish.
Wow.
So the question again is, complete the question. If psychics are real, why didn't they predict blank? And next week we'll read out some of the best comments. I cannot wait to see. So Drew, you give talks, right? You travel the country and give talks. That's correct, right?
That would be correct. Yes. Yeah. Or something like that, right?
Sure. So what have you got coming up?
So what do I have coming up? I'm doing a series of talks over the next few months, most recently here in Minneapolis, where I'm currently located. And that is through a humanist community here in the Twin Cities called First Unitarian Society. It's actually fun fact, it's the first group to ever use the word humanist to describe the secular movement. Was this humanist community called First Unitarian Society. It's a 100% non-theistic congregation. And so I'm doing a series of talks there about navigating the post-faith life and kind of rediscovering life after God, if you will.
Wow.
So that's next up on the docket.
That sounds exciting. I'm actually giving my first in-person guest speaker talk this month.
Really?
Here in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm not in Louisville, but in Kentucky. That's where I'm going for it. And yeah, so I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to share some stuff about my personal life now. I was recently let go from a job because of my beliefs or lack thereof.
No way, for real?
Yeah. It's been a nightmare. If anybody wants to call in and talk about that, if you've been let go from stuff because of what you believe or don't believe, there's a number you can call it. It all originated around prayers. I asked for people not to pray for me because I'm not I don't believe it. And that kicked off a whole domino effect of events. And I was let go from a job, and then a company. I think they're called the Louisville Freethinkers asked if I would come and give a talk about it. So I'm like, yeah, sure. So I'm going to hit you up for some advice. I think, knowing how awesome you are at giving talks. So I'm going to be in your DMs, Drew, saying,
come on in, brother.
That would be great.
I will welcome your DMs. All right.
In 2024, I feel like DMs should be a nice, safe place. Because, you hear stories
Absolutely.
about what goes on in DMs. I wish my wife would DM me sometimes. Anyway, I think we should probably get to some calls.
Down in the DM.
She's asleep right now. She has no idea what I just said that. Don't tell her. Anyway, I think we should.
We'll send her the soundbite, John.
No, nobody do that. We do need to shout out our patron of the week. Every single week we get to shout out a patron that donates through tiny.cc/patrontw as a little thanks for supporting the show. This week's patron of the week is, I'm going to have to say this right, Kalevi Helveti. I've probably butchered that. Thank you so much. And a big thank you to everyone else who contributes to the show. We have got tons of space in the call. So if you want to call about, anything that you believe or you think you may have seen a UFO or I don't know, give us a call. We want the truth here at Truth Wanted. So give us a call. But we've got I'm pretty certain there are things like comments that have been made on videos that we can look at and discuss whilst we're waiting for some calls. So I think we can pull up a screenshot of a comment that was left on a video, and it says, I'm going to say, yup, atheism is its own religion based on scientism. Drew, what do you think about that?
Atheism is its own religion based on scientism, right?
Yeah.
That's the accusation.
That's the accusation. Yeah, let's dissect that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, atheism has been around for much longer than scientism. So I don't see how there's any basis. Maybe one person's lack of belief in a god might have been inspired by their experience interaction with scientism, but that's one person, their experience of atheism. To be an atheist, John, you tell me if you disagree. Mm-hmm. But though I will concede that throughout history and around the world, there have been various ways of defining atheism in academic senses, in more popular senses, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But I think for the vast majority of us here today, when we identify as an atheist, we are simply keying on to the concept of whether or not we maintain a belief in a God.
Right.
And if theism is having belief in a God, atheism would simply be negating that. We do not, at least currently, as based on what we've seen here today up to this point in life, we are not currently convinced by the existence of a God, and therefore we are atheistic. I would use that as a synonym of non-theistic. Again, different definitions abound. Some people define non-theism differently as well, but I would use those interchangeably in essence as simply one lacking belief in a God. John, do you concur?
I would agree that I would add or gods plural as well. Yeah. So I always say that I lack a belief in a god or gods, because there are thousands, sometimes way more than that, of proposed beings of the sky. And so I don't just stop at one. I don't say God or a god. I say a god or gods, plural. Because, there are a ton of versions of said being. So I don't want to leave any of them out.
Yes, so that's where I agree. And yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I suppose when I say I lack belief in a God, maybe we could say even a God, because if I don't even believe in a God, I certainly don't believe in many gods. Right. I don't even believe in a single one, right? So, but no, I absolutely.
Got it. But I there's the little thing that's bugging me about this is that it's a religion. Atheism is a religion, which I know that a lot of theists who are like the popular ones who make videos on the YouTubes, they constantly say, "Well, it's its own religion," and there's one in particular. But I don't agree with like a theist saying that it's a religion and you can't believe it, because you are trying to stand up for your religion. So saying that atheism is a religion and then not believable, you're kind of saying that your own thing then is not believable because it's the thing that you're saying atheism is. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Probably not.
Absolutely. And I 100% concur with that as well. And I think where some of that comes in is this idea of there's this, question, this debate, whatnot between, is it lack of a belief in the existence of a God or gods, or is it a belief that gods do not exist, right? So is it lack of a belief that, et cetera, or is it a belief that, et cetera, right? And so it's just one little switch, one little nuance in how the phrase is worded, but it's a powerful one, because how you and I are wording it, I believe we're on the same page as this, is it's a lack of belief.
Right.
Not
Right.
beliefs that, etc. So it focuses on a lack of belief rather than beliefs. But also, too, you look at Ninian Smart's. Ninian Smart is this old school religious academic from back in the day, and he keys on what he called back then the 7 dimensions of religion, which probably maybe a little more readily understandable way of putting it. Dimensions can sound a little woo-woo, like it's out in space. So all these different, the universes and multiverse, all the multi dimensions. He's using it more in the sense of 7 aspects of religion, the seven lenses of dimension, you could say, and it includes things like epistemology, things like wardrobe, behavior. There's all these, of which belief is actually only one of the 7. So I do think that it is possible to have non-theistic religion. I know I'm not in the majority on that, but I do think it's absolutely possible to have non-theistic or atheistic religion, because epistemology or belief in anything is only one of the 7 lenses. That said, atheism itself is just one descriptor of whether or not you believe in the existence of a god or gods, or really I would say any supernatural element. Are you naturalistic in your outlook or supernaturalistic in your outlook? To be naturalistic in your outlook would be to be non-theistic or atheistic, and that's not a religion. That's simply a viewpoint and how you see the world, how the world is built around you.
I like that. That was, man, this is why you're here, because you go in depth. I'm just like, yeah, no, done. See ya. Next question.
Well, tell me to shut the hell up.
No,
with going in depth, that also hand in hand with being long-winded, as they say.
No, I like it. Never stop, Drew. Never stop. We actually do have some calls in the queue. So are you ready to take a call? Because I'm ready.
Fantastic. Let's do it, brother.
Let's do it. So first of all, we have Ben, pronouns he, him, a personal experience of the haunting of the Paw Paw Tunnel. I don't know what that is, so you're going to have to explain that to me, Ben. Hey, you're on with Drew and John. How's it going?
It's fine. Yes, the Paw Paw Tunnel was, it's cut through like a mountain. It's through rock. It was started in 1838. They didn't complete it until 1850. What it is, it runs parallel. It's a canal that runs parallel to the Potomac River. And it's cut through a canal in order to have these boats go through. And to this day, you can walk the tunnel. It's like 3,115 feet. Yeah. The thing about it, it's pitch dark in there. You need like a flashlight to walk through.
Oh, wow. Okay. And you were going through the tunnel, and you think you saw a ghost or something.
Yes. This is the story. On the way back in the tunnel, because I usually walk a couple of miles once I get out, I turned around, went back, and when I was about 3/4 of the way through, now it's pitch dark, I got a flashlight. I heard like sounds behind me. I just thought it was people. So, then I heard some like coins being thrown and some really bizarre kind of sounds. I didn't pay much attention to it. And then it started getting like closer and closer, and I looked behind me and I really couldn't see anything. And if there were people there, they really have a flashlight because you can't see anything. So nonetheless, I just kept on walking and walking. I got a little freaked out, but I eventually come out the other end of the tunnel. I ran into a guy that I know who was on a bicycle, and we stopped and we talked for about a good 20 minutes. And he's from that area. So I said to him, "Did you see anybody come out of the tunnel with me?" I said, "They should have just came. There's no other way they can exit without us seeing them." He goes, "No." And he goes, "Oh, this place is haunted. Nobody tell you?" And so I thought about it. I'm not sure if it's really haunted, but it was a really freaky experience. And people tell me that, "Oh, yeah, you definitely, it's haunted." When they built the tunnel, it was built by a lot of immigrants, and they used to have, I guess, rivalry and fights, and a lot of times people would get killed. They get killed by, they used to use black powder and pick and shovel. A lot of men get killed, in explosions and stuff. But a lot of people were killed in fights. Like they used to get drunk, and like the Irish would fight against the Germans. So that people say, "Oh, there's a lot of ghosts in there," but I don't know. It was pretty freaky. And more people I tell, they go, "Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. that place is haunted. So I just thought I'd tell you that.
Okay, and so how convinced are you? So let's say, like, on a scale of 0 to 100, how convinced are you that it was a supernatural experience?
Honestly, I'd probably say like a 6.
A 6 out of 100?
Oh, I don't
Wait, 6 out of 100 or 6 out of 10?
Yeah, 6 out of 10. Okay.
60.
Okay. I don't know why I picked 100. Maybe I was just going for like a percentage, maybe. But okay, so 6 out of 10. What would take you to a higher level, and what would bring you down to a lower level? What would, like, let's say, what would convince you and make it an 8 out of 10? What would have to happen for you to go, no, that 8 out of 10, that was a ghost?
I would say, see, the more I think about it and use logic, the more it doesn't sound like it's possible. Yet I had that experience with the sound behind me and like coins being thrown and just like water dripping in there and stuff. I would say, looking back on the thing, it could probably be explained, but this is the thing. If there were people behind me in the tunnel and they never came out, then maybe they turned around and went back the other way, like 6,000 some feet, and then they come out to a path that there's like no exit out of there. So you just keep walking on this trail that goes on for miles. It's a bicycle route. So,
you didn't happen to that day have some change in your pocket, and like you got to the other end of the tunnel and went, oh man, I'm sure I had a quarter in here, and then it had mysteriously vanished and maybe fallen out yourself?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, somebody threw, wherever it was, this coin, or it sounded, it could be like a nail was thrown.
Okay.
You could hear it echo in the tunnel. No, it wasn't me. I would have like dropped it.
Right.
Heard it.
So a 6 out of 10's like, that to me is like, it could be, but I'm not really sure. What would bring you down? What would bring you down from a 6?
Bring me down. If those people who were behind me, or if there was if they, I can't imagine them staying in there. And because it's like I said, it's wintertime, it's dark and cold in there. I don't know. The only explanation could be they turn around and walk the other way in the darkness and get back on the trail. And then again, there's no place to really get off to come back to a parking lot. All right, so that's one explanation. The other one could be they just stayed in the tunnel. I don't know, longer than 20 minutes. But the thing is, the folklore around this is in West Virginia. It's right on the West Virginia-Maryland line. This Paw Paw Tunnel thing. So the more I think about it, the more I think it's probably there's an explanation for it. But
Right.
the people who live around there goes, oh no, absolutely, there's ghosts in there. I went, well, maybe, I don't know.
Right. Were you going to say something, Drew?
I was just going to say, Ben, I think the beautiful thing of what just happened is I mean, John was great, and I love the number, right? And pick a space, and what would it take, and what would it take to convince you all the way? What would it take to bring you down, drop you down a notch? I love that, and that can be a really great, really powerful exercise, and that was fantastic. But what I really love, Ben, is the fact that you were kind of already working through that even before that point. Because I think in your opening setup comments, you had said, maybe the more I think about it, the more it might be explainable by other things. And then just now I heard you say that again just a few moments ago, that, what, the more I think about it, and I love that phrase, the more I think about it. Mm-hmm. To me, I like, you hear of the razor, right? Occam's razor, and looking for the most simple conclusion as we approach different scenarios, challenges, question marks. What's the most simple answer? And so is the most simple answer the fact that, maybe somebody walked in, turned around, maybe someone's at the edge of the tunnel. I guess I missed exactly how long it is. So maybe that's not very plausible. But if it's possible that you could have heard it from someplace else, an echo, things like this, things you're already thinking about as potential answers. And that's the thing, is we don't need a definite answer. We just start to realize that there's other potential answers that are more simple and do not require the existence of supernatural beings. That, hey, we know other people exist. We know other people walk into and out of tunnels. We know, I don't know about you, but sometimes my own mind kind of plays little tricks on me. Maybe that's because I'm just a little fucked up. I go to therapy every week for a reason. Okay. So, sometimes just our own psyche kind of almost plays, I'll say plays tricks on us, right? Where we think we hear or see something and it's like, wait a minute, blink twice. Was it really there? I'm not so sure. We'll see if it comes back. Oh, it didn't. So I like the fact that already, as you're thinking through it more fully, you're seeing other, maybe more, shall I say, more plausible answers that might actually answer it a little more solidly.
Yeah, it was fascinating to witness that.
The reason why I kept on thinking about it, because more people who live in that area are convinced of it. They say it happens all the time, that there's definitely spirits in there. Other people say they think it was demons, and they're gonna follow me home. But whatever. That's the only reason why I gave it a second thought. I would just completely dismiss it. It wasn't for the folklore and the local people.
There's a lot in that, though. If there's a story that a building in the town that you live in is haunted, people have that on their mind, so they're kind of waiting for something to happen. And when if a breeze blows a door ever so slightly, but they've got in their mind this place is haunted, so your brain links it up and goes, well, that must have been what it was, because you've heard that this is what goes on here because of stories that have been passed down. So your brain's just going to fill in the gaps with what it hopes or thinks it already knows. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, powerful suggestion. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, man, I would love it if there was an afterlife. I think a lot of people who don't now believe in it would love for it to be real, because there's people that we've lost and we love and we want to see them again. So I mean, I wish we had some hard evidence that there was something afterwards, but this conversation seemed to just keep me and maybe Drew was on the same place, and maybe even you, Ben, as well. You might be like, yeah, maybe not.
But it is fun to entertain those questions, though, right? I mean, it's folklore. Folklore's it's fun. It's fucking great, right? We like hearing those stories and whatnot. I mean, it's kind of hard not to dive into it. It's kind of almost like the juicy gossip about our family and whatnot, right? You hear something your weird stepsister or your aunt or your great grandpa Joe, I mean, they do this crazy shit that everybody loves talking about. And here's what tends to happen is, at least I think anyway, in my experience, I don't know, I guess I haven't done a scientific study on this, which is an important question to ask in things like this. What has been studied, what hasn't been, right? But it does seem that those stories do tend to evolve and grow and expand. They get more and more juicy each time we tell them, the telephone game. So of course, if that happens with a juicy story about great grandpa Joe, of course it's going to happen with juicy stories about the haunted mansion around the corner.
Mm-hmm. I think now with all the internet and the crazy times we live in, those stories are more apt to be believed than they used to be, I'd say, in the last few years.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It's a wild thing. So,
yeah, we have a lot more access to information now. So,
I was going to say, I live in an area where it's like Trumpville, and people here I've been shunned. I get shunned. People want, I wave, they just completely ignore me, and this has been going on for a couple of years. I first thought it was my imagination, but yeah, there's definitely some. If people don't, if you're not aboard this Trump train where I live, people they pretty much just dismiss you.
Right. Well, I'm glad that we managed to talk about your belief there, or we got to dissect what you thought you'd saw. That was entertaining for us. Yeah. So I appreciate you calling in with that, Ben.
Okay. Well, thanks for letting me call, and you guys take care. And
No worries.
Great
Thank
chatting
you.
with you,
You
Ben.
take care.
Thanks a lot, brother.
Oh, that was fun. I enjoyed that
It was
one.
fun.
That was
Yeah.
nice. I like
I mean,
some supernatural stuff.
I love the fact that he came to the conclusion essentially on his own, right? I mean,
We just sat back and
thinking it
watched that
through.
happen.
Yeah, that was great.
It was
loved
great.
Love it.
So we have got plenty of calls in the ready to go. But if you do want to call and have a chat, do so. The number's on the screen. But there are other things that you can do. You can become a channel member by clicking the join button below the video. This will give you access to special chat emojis and early access to YouTube shorts and clips. There's also a Facebook group that you can go to. It's run by the fans and it's for the fans. To get there, you go to tiny.cc/FBTWG to interact with other fans. And I'm going to give you a warning, crew. I'm just about to say thank you to you. So just so you know, there's a bunch of people that make shows like this all over the ACA. Very, very possible. They give up a lot of time to make it happen. I think we need to give a big thank you to the crew. So let's see the crew, bring them up. There's video operators and audio operators, mods, note takers, call screeners. All of you are fabulous and we appreciate you. So a massive, massive thank you for all of your hard work. And I will be saying thank you to you again at the end of the show, just so you have a little warning there, crew. So, Drew, more calls. We have more.
Let's do it.
We've got a nice one here. This is Joshua. Pronouns are he, him. What cryptid do you hope most exists? And what cryptic do you think actually exists? Hello there, Joshua. Sorry, I just shortened your name because I'm a Jonathan and I do that all the time. So do you have one that you believe in?
You can call me whatever you need to. Now,
nice.
Yes, I have two. Well, I'm going to give you two real quick. Two that I hope exist. Since big fan of our Cornwall brethren in the UK, I hope that Owlman actually exists. And then from Australia, I hope the Burundjor or the Australian raptor actually exists. It's mainly a meme by creationists, but I still think it's funny, and I think it would be great if it actually existed. What I do believe exists, 1,000%, the Beast of Broadmoor, 1,000% that exists. Mongolian death worm, 1,000%, it exists, just not 60 feet long and 20 feet high.
Wow.
I can't say I've ever heard of either of those.
Wow. So I'm just curious, Joshua. I'd like to hear, I guess, a little more on, because you seem really convinced. Mm-hmm. And I guess if your question, was specifically asking us which ones we believe in, I'm not sure I believe in any of them. To be perfectly honest, it sounds like a whole host of villains from the Marvel universe, from just the way you're describing them. I don't mean that offensively, but it sounds very outside of my understanding of reality. Or maybe I'm making some dangerous assumptions. So I'd love, if we have time, John, just to hear a little bit more of what exactly this is. When you talk about a cryptic, I think of that more as an adjective. So I think of cryptic passwords. I think of cryptic questions. I think of cryptic phrases. So this is a cryptic what? I'm guessing not Marvel villain. And again, I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean it inquisitively. But then I'd also like to hear more when you say you're absolutely convinced they exist. What is it that convinces you? Because I haven't seen any or heard of any.
I would always say, please dare to assume. But the only reason why the Beast of Broadmoor, I am certain exists because of the Dangerous Wild Animals Act in 1976. There were a few families that had domestically owned exotic animals like pumas, European lynx, different varieties of large cat that they just released into the wild. So obviously there would be a sighting of one of these creatures. So that's where, now, do I believe they have like a breeding population? Absolutely not. I believe
Right.
probably already
Joshua,
no longer existing.
sorry to cut you off, but I have a clarifying question here real quick. So did I hear you correctly? Am I understanding correctly that the beasts of, did you say beasts of Broadmoor, something like that?
Yes.
So
they're Britain.
that they are simply nothing more than a group of maybe we'd say predators, pumas, panthers, etc., that were released in the suburbs?
This is actually back in the UK, though. The Beast of Bodmin Moor is a UK thing. And I'm going to tell you, I'm from the UK. There are no big cats wild in the UK. The biggest...
They did capture them. They did capture.
Well, yeah, there was things in like zoos and circuses way back when.
No.
There's
like in Scotland, 1980, they caught Scotland 1980. They caught a wild puma that was released because it was an exotic.
Oh, I see.
So that we have actual evidence that there were wild cats that did exist that were released from these enclosures. So we do.
They're not really cryptids though, because they are existing creatures. So
agree. That's why I say I welcome for you to assume, because some of these may not exactly be cryptids. They do exist, but cryptid, no.
I mean, I want to hear more about the two that you initially spoke about. And I'm gonna quickly answer. What cryptid do I most hope exists? I'm a big fan of a adult animation and Man Bear Pig. I really hope that if there's any cryptid that I would hope exists, would be Man Bear Pig.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Al Gore.
You know, Joshua. Yeah, exactly. He would.
I'll also take this opportunity real quick, Joshua, to apologize. I misheard you. It has become clear to me that you were describing cryptid, not cryptic. And so I do apologize. I'm come from more the Yahweh variety of mythic background. And so continue on. I apologize for my ignorance.
No ignorance. I gave it to you cryptically, so it's okay.
Love it. Continue on, brother.
Burrinjor. Now this one is kind of out there. It's the idea of the sightings of an Australian dinosaur. So specifically, it could be a raptor, could be a T-Rex, even though we have no evidence fossily that they existed ever in Oceania. But I'm holding out that these few creationists are correct. I'm holding out for it. We just need the evidence part. That's all we need.
Right.
We just need that.
Sure. And I think that's true for a lot of things. We just need the evidence of it. But maybe this Australian cryptid could be like a bald cockatoo or something,
Well,
it's dinosaur-like.
When they were talking to the indigenous population describing it, some of the stories they got were like of a very, very large, like river monitor, like a huge lizard.
Oh, okay.
That's a strong possibility. I just hope it's a raptor. I mean, it would just fit Australia pretty well too. Just saying.
Yeah, wouldn't it just? We've all seen Jurassic Park.
Well, everything's out to kill you in Australia, just not
true.
Ironically.
Hey, well, I found that about some parts of America as well. I'm not from here, but I live here, and I live in Kentucky.
It feels like everybody wants to kill us here.
Yeah, right.
We actually fear them. But see, in Australia, like I had some friends telling me about nightly news reports to make sure you flick your mail so that way you don't get bit by the wolf spiders. Those kinds of, we don't get those news reports here in the United States, like where there's actual dangerous animals you need to watch for on a daily basis. Like if you're going to step in the shower, make sure you shake out that shower curtain for any of, actual dangerous wildlife that will get you. We don't have those kind of reports.
Right. This is why I live in Minneapolis. Okay. There's no dangerous snakes. The most dangerous snake we have is the garter snake. The most dangerous spider we have is a daddy long legs. It just,
Here in
Yeah,
the South,
it's
there's all
just
kinds of wonderful creatures waiting
Yeah.
for you around every corner, waiting for you when you lower your regimental institution. They're waiting to
I
get
love it.
you.
I love
I
it.
do. I do. When I go to sit
Stay
on the
vigilant, right?
toilet, I check. I'm like, is there going to be a snake or something there? Is it?
Do you really?
You,
Do you
Yeah,
really?
I do. I'm terrified.
if you live in
Terrified.
Florida, you probably do want to do that check. I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah,
There are
I've heard that.
a lot of
Yeah,
stories, but of course, it's Florida. You know,
yeah, that's fair. Kentucky, not so much. I don't think a copperhead's going to come out of a toilet to
no,
bite your butt.
no.
I was in Alabama for the last couple weeks, and nobody warned me of these toilet bowl monsters, these toilet bowl cryptids. Nobody warned me.
Just listing off your friends in Alabama, you have the eastern diamondback rattlesnake, you have the copperhead,
no.
you also have the black rat snake, you also have, well, the black rat
Jesus.
snake's not venomous, but they're kind of feisty, they're ornery. You also have, oh, dang it.
Okay, we need to end this call right now. I'm getting way too
terrified.
freaked out. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
But
an-
thanks, Joshua.
I'm an avid camper, hiker, and naturalist, so I know a lot. I know what to look out for in a lot of places.
And hopefully, you carry around antidotes for being bitten by things as well.
Well, I just have faith, brothers.
Okay, well there you go.
That's where.
Well, as long if that's the case, well then no worries about anything. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
pick them up, handle them, it'll all be good. Okay.
Yeah,
Mark
there are some
16.
churches that do that, right?
The only other cryptid I hope exists is Owlman. Now, this also is one with
Owlman.
really
What is
scant
this?
evidence. It's from our friends in Cornwall in the UK.
Those you can't trust them. No, you can. They're lovely.
We can't-
People in Cornwall are lovely. They're fine.
There was an enormously anthropomorphic owl seen upon a church within the I think it was like Mawman district or whatever. But anyway,
Right.
just an enormous owl type man. I just got
Wow.
I doubt it.
So Joshua, I'm curious. So for some of the conversation, maybe even bordering on most of the conversation, it kind of almost feels like we're just kind of like joking and fantasizing and wouldn't it be cool if, or at least that's how my potentially, maybe possibly naive ears are hearing it. So to what extent do you, so Owlman, to what extent do you actually believe that Owlman is real?
I think it's a very large barn owl, which is very normal to Cornwall in the UK.
Yeah. 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 Barn owls are everywhere in the UK. Everywhere.
They're huge. They're also enormous.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I have hopes, but on the believe percentage,
if belief could be quantified with a sound, meh is now my favorite.
So
the only other
So when you say, here's how my, again, completely ignorant eyes in this particular conversation function, when I hear you say, well, there are very large owls in this area, that almost sounds like you're saying it's nothing other than an owl, and they tend to be large and people look at it and they think it looked kind of human-like. But that at the end of the day, it's really nothing more. I believe in it, but it's really nothing more than an actual 100% owl.
I will never doubt the people of Cornwall, and I will never have them riot in the
Okay.
Listen,
Our hopes of Owlman.
They-
I will say that I am somewhat skeptical that there will
That's a good way to be.
inside.
But
It is
I-
a good.
I'm not sure if we can trust the people of Cornwall because they get their jam and cream backwards to the people of Devon on their scones. So,
But
the
only other piece, the only other piece of information I have: Mongolian deathworm. There have been red serpents found in Mongolia within the deserts.
So are they worms or serpents?
It's weird because they're called actual worm snakes
Okay.
or worm lizards. I'm sorry, it's a worm lizard. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. Worm lizards because they're mistaken for snakes because of how long their bodies are and how small their appendages are, but they come in a very dark red sort of maroon color that I remember. So yes, worm lizards.
There's something very similar in the UK, and this isn't supernatural. This is real. I don't live there anymore. They have a creature called a slow worm, and it's called a worm. It looks like a snake, but it's a lizard. Has no legs. And I've seen plenty of those things. So that, maybe that's a cryptid of some description, a legless lizard snake that's called a worm.
But yes, that's what I think. Obviously, it's not 20 feet long and 6 feet tall or anything like that.
Yeah, right.
I don't believe that. It looks dangerous.
I tell you this.
Probably not.
I'll tell you this, fam. Is if we're ever in the same city, I'm absolutely taking you for drinks. So let me know if you're in Minneapolis or anywhere else I am, because I sense an unending lineup of fantastic and fantastical stories.
I want to be in there as well. So just invite me along, because I feel like we'd have a great time.
You find gentlemen can buy me all the beer you need to.
There you go. Done.
Deal. You keep the stories rolling and I'll keep the beers flowing. How's that?
I shall give testament to the opportunities that this world has to offer. Absolutely.
That's great.
That's awesome.
I'm still holding out hope for Man Bear Pig after all this. So thanks, Joshua.
Man Bear Pig. If it doesn't exist, I will make sure to present or manufacture the evidence for Man Bear.
There you go.
And I will post it somewhere. Just tell me.
Photographic evidence of Man Bear Pig. That's what the world needs. Well, thanks for the call, Joshua. That was very entertaining. We appreciate you calling in with that.
Thanks, Joshua.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, have a great night.
You too. Take care. That was great. Half man, half bear, half pig is going to appear. We've just learned that here. The truth's wanted. We've got the truth. It's going to exist. There you go.
I just love, John, how those calling in so far seem to kind of have some good understanding, insight into how plausible or implausible it may or may not be. I love this. I love it.
It's so much fun. That's Truth Wanted is just something else. We do have a couple more calls. We're going to go with Elane. Her pronouns are she, her. And she has the concept of creationism, saw a story where someone changed his mind when he thought about a game creator creating a game. Hello, Elane. You're on with John and Drew. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, John. Hi, Drew.
Hey. So what have you got for us? The concept of creationism.
Yeah, so I was watching this YouTube video, and it was by a game creator. And he had, like, the opposite backstory of Drew. He grew up atheist, but he changed his mind when he realized, like, his argument was, we're such powerful creators ourselves. We can create new worlds in the form of video games, for instance, and video game characters don't know we exist, so why doesn't it make sense for there to be a creator more powerful than us? And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's deep.
What a thought.
Yeah. So someone just break it down for me one more time so it sinks into my very thick skull.
Yeah. So this guy, he grew up atheist, and he changed his mind because he was a game creator, and he thought, well, we are such powerful creators, so why couldn't there be a more powerful creator who created us?
Okay.
And we just don't know that he exists because video game creators don't know that their creators exist.
But
yeah, I love that.
Could video game creators let their characters know that they exist?
It's a key word.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Elane, the way you worded it, and I think it's the same word that John just keyed off of, is could, right? Could there be, if we have, and if I'm misphrasing this, then tell us, Elane, but if we can create these worlds, then could there be a creator of this one? Well, sure. I mean, that's my response. Sure, I guess there could be. But that's a different question than do we have good reason to find or conclude that there is? And so I think that's
Yeah.
where at least my conclusion would be very different. But sure, they're good. It's a fun thought experiment, I guess. I'm not sure we go very far with it, but it's kind of fun and fantastical, and like
Right.
some of these other things, I guess. I don't know. Those are my introductory thoughts.
What do you think, Elaine?
I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a follow-up question. So I just find it very interesting, Drew's background of becoming a preacher, and I wanted to hear more about, or being a preacher and then becoming atheist, and I wanted to hear more about that.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so let me say this, Elaine, just because there is much that could be said. Is there, I guess, maybe a more specific question within it, or area of curiosity within it, or
Yeah, just like what opened your eyes? Like where did the switch come slowly over time, or was it like a big switch?
Deconstruction. Yeah.
Mhm.
The D word, the glorious, D words. Well, by D words, I mean deconstruction.
D word that theists do not like.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, you're right where you say, was it kind of a slow brood, not your word, but was it a slow journey? Was there anything in particular? It was a slower journey. There were a lot of things there within it all. There was approximately, year and a half, I suppose you could say, deconversion journey where there were a lot of different things. More than anything, I suppose you could say, was as an evangelical, which I would suggest that the litmus test for evangelicalism is, do you believe that the Christian Bible is the inspired, inerrant word of God? If you can say yes to that whatever it means, whatever the hell is in there, it is inspired, it is inerrant. If you can say yes to that, there's kind of room to interpret it however you will, as long as you believe it's from God, right? And so in that sense, I was evangelical. I did believe the Bible was the inspired, inerrant word of God. And that said, I interpreted it quite progressively, quite leftward. We were not your typical evangelical church, but the more I studied, the more I looked, a full decade into my pastoral ministry, 15 or so years into total ministry, as I looked around at the world around me, I saw more and more disconnect between what the Bible seemed to teach and what I saw reflected around me in my own personal experience, as well as in, from a scientific lens, right? From a measurable lens. And so that broke down my understanding of biblical credibility. And then I came to a point where I had to ask, well, if I no longer find the Bible to be credible, is there anything else in the world around me that would seem to indicate the existence of a God? And the answer quickly became clear that in my understanding, that it was no. The only reason I believed in the existence of a God was because the Bible told me so. And so if I no longer saw it as credible, then why do I still believe it? And so that's, I suppose, there's much that could be said. I've written on it quite extensively, but that's kind of the nutshell of what it really came down to, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So John shared with us that he was let go from his position for his lack of beliefs, which, by the way, so sorry about that, John. That's awful.
It happens.
Was there any backlash to you, Drew?
In some ways, yes. Not directly in terms of a job, although I do think there might have been a position or two that I had applied for and interviewed for that I did not get because of my public presence. I have always shared my last name publicly, probably too transparently in some lenses. But no, I actually left my ministry, if you will, prior to finally admitting that I had become an atheist. So I came to grips with the fact of my non-belief, accepted the fact of my non-belief after I left the ministry, which we can certainly unpack if you want to. But so I did not, I was already doing other work transitionally by the time I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Because I spent a year and a half fighting, laboring, 2 years really, laboring for my faith. I loved my faith. It was very comfortable to me, especially being on the more progressive side of evangelicalism. And so I loved keeping my faith. I was very comfortable in it. I loved being at the center of God's plan and the savior of the rest of humanity. I loved being a pastor. So I was in no hurry to rush out of it. But eventually it became clear after I left, I just couldn't deny it any longer. So again, I don't know if that's helpful. May I ask, do you consider yourself a believer in a god or gods? Are you a theist or something else? What do you consider yourself?
Which my friend has told me. Sorry, I'm definitely agnostic, which my friend has told me is basically atheist. I don't know if there's some sort of creator out there, but I also am fine with not knowing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us are in that boat. I'm not putting words in your mouth, Drew, but I don't think anybody knows if there's anything out there. I don't think anybody's like, well, maybe some people are convinced, but I'm in this circle. I'm going to say probably not. But I don't know if there is or isn't a God. Am I convinced of one though? No. So I label myself as atheist. But I think most of the people would be an agnostic and then continue, what the rest of that is. So I'm an agnostic theist or agnostic atheist. So yeah, I get that. I get it. I did have something to say, and it's completely. Oh no! What I was going to say was, I speak to a lot of non-believers, and we've even done with Drew a circle of how did you step away from your belief, and this isn't necessarily for everybody, but a lot of people didn't just transition overnight. It's every single circumstance that I've experienced and been told about has been a slow burn, stepping away. And, something might just enter their brain and go, do I believe this? I'm not so sure. And then goes the journey of researching and trying to answer questions that you may have. And eventually all of the friendship circle that I have that is non-believer has concluded that they don't believe in a God. So I don't suppose it's going to be a quick overnight thing for anybody. And even mine, I grew up not believing in a God, but my movement away from the spirituality side of things and just, afterlife, that took me years to drop that. And I don't suppose it's ever going to be an overnight thing for anybody.
Yeah, that is a fair point, because it wasn't for me either. I grew up Baptist, the whole purity culture thing, and that was really hard to let go.
Yeah, and it is, and I get it, and to keep asking questions. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Hey, no, thank you for calling in, Elaine. It was nice to speak to you.
Thanks, Elaine. Great to chat with you.
Oh, that was nice. That was nice. This has been a very sweet show. We've been talking about some very lovely things.
We have. I feel like everybody's being easy on me here, so
it's because you're so handsome. That's all it is. Look at that picture. For those of you who are just listening to audio, it's just a picture of Drew on the screen.
By the way, that picture is AI generated. I actually look nothing like that. So it's me merged together with some Google algorithm. I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying, honestly, but yeah.
We do have another call we can take if you'd like to. Let's bring him up. It's Jamie the Blind Limey. How to ride the edge between educating and alienating our loved ones. Hey, Jamie, how's it going?
Hello.
Hey, Jamie.
Happy Friday. I think that Drew looks a bit like David Hayter, the voice actor for Solid Snake. But that's just me.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, both very handsome men. But to my point, I have a member of my family, someone I hold extremely, extremely dear, someone who I trust, someone who I respect ultimately. And we agree on a great many things. But we have recently not had a falling out as such, but we have been discussing the existence of trans people, the validity of trans people, and the plight of the LGBTQA community. And they, because they're part of my mom's generation, they're sort of the generation above me, have not grown up with these concepts and have had trouble getting on board with them. They're very live and let live. They're very compassionate. You know, again, I wouldn't respect them if they weren't. But they have said things like, if you have a penis, you can't call yourself a woman, or
right.
And they, at least to my ears, echoed talking points I've heard coming out of the mouths of people like Stephen Crowder and Matt Walsh and you know, the bad people, Ben Shapiro, these kinds of people. And it disheartened me so much that I got angry. I started losing my cool. And I was frustrated that I couldn't seem to convince them that, no, but the science says that trans people are real, they're perfectly valid. It's not an aberration. It's just a variance. There's no single thing that makes us male or female, man or woman. Both gender and sex are separate, and they're both a spectrum. And the closest I got was actually to plug another one of our hosts and friends, Forrest Elane-KY. He did a fantastic video a few years ago, called "Sex and Sensibility." That I
actually share that video. So just to quickly jump in, I share that video a lot when this topic comes up and people need just like a little bit more information. I go, look at this. So that's a great one.
Definitely.
And that's brought them around somewhat, but still the whole, I still don't get it. I still, you know, like they're just digging the heel. It feels like they're digging the heels in. And like, considering that I'm supposed to be a professional at this now, run out of argumentary tools. Any ideas, fellas? Any thoughts?
I like to go, okay, so you have an issue with this community. How has a member of this community affected you personally? I don't want to hear like stories of like what stories have you heard from other people? I want to know how a member of this community has affected you personally. And 9 times out of 10, maybe even 9.9 times out of 10, they have nothing. And then therefore that then makes them take a step back and go, what is my issue here? That's just, maybe that's something I would do. And this isn't an advice, you know, Jamie, this isn't an advice place, but that's what I personally would do. What about you, Drew?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I love it when people, love it, I suppose, used loosely, love in a sense. Okay. I love it when people bring up biology, right? Biological male, biological female is how it's oftentimes put, right? Biological woman and man, etc. Is okay. Well, let's talk biology. Like, you realize that there is biological basis in the idea that gender is not binary, that there are that trans is real, right? Not just being cisgendered, but being transgendered is real, that there are at least 5 different stages of sexual development in utero, right? Culminating in your neurological sex, right? So you've got, so I'll ask people, you realize this, right? This is a matter of biology. It is biologically observable chromosomal sex, gonadal sex, internal phenotypic sex, external phenotypic sex, then culminating in neurological sex. At any one of these points, there can be different variations, different paths that our development takes. And it all happens in utero. And so it is very possible. And you can point towards certain examples. Definitely, it's not across the board with any one of these, but those who are intersex in very different examples, scenarios where this happens, with folks where their development takes different routes. And so that's something where sometimes folks say, well, yeah, I realize that some folks have an intersexual development. And so those are things we can look at, right? I think it's as much as, I think some estimates are 1 in 50 of us. 1 in 50 of us have different types of intersexual development in terms of that. And so just breaking it down for folks, listen, there is biological pathway and biological development that this takes. It's not something where, because I think for a lot of folks, a lot of our family members, a lot of our neighbors, coworkers, etc., they really do think it's simply stating my preference, which there's a legitimacy to that as well. I identify such and such, but it's not merely how do I feel. It's also what are the biological evidences, observances, and that's a real legitimate thing. So that I think a lot of people gloss over and don't realize or give credit to, and that can be a nice starting point in helping break down some of the assumptions and barriers that people take in terms of assuming it's just some, teenagers these days, Gen Z teenagers just don't like to accept reality and they want to create it however they want it to be. No, these are verifiable identities, verifiable situations with how our bodies and our minds and our brains are built. So that's where I would start anyway. I don't know if that's helpful.
So on a couple of points there. On the one hand, it was mentioned talking about have you ever been had a person from that community do you any harm or having trouble with you? And we've already had that talk, and the answer is no, not personally.
Right.
And they're not, and therefore they don't have a personal beef about them, but they do believe stories they've heard about members of the LGBT community, especially trans people, demanding people be cancelled for using the wrong pronouns by mistake. And I'm of the opinion that no, any reasonable person would only demand people to be lambasted if they are doing it on purpose as an act of act of bigotry, an act of verbal violence.
Right.
And so my challenge to them was, give me some concrete examples. I want names, dates. I want to know, right?
Yeah.
The other point that was raised was the biological. This person is very, very interested in science, very sort of knowledgeable in some ways, but a lay person, much as myself. Unfortunately, they're also highly skeptical of authority figures. They don't trust the WHO. They don't trust the NHS. When I raised the NIH, they were like, I don't know who they are, but I'm sure they wouldn't trust them either because they're the US government. And I'm like, well, if you're going, it's like flat Earth. If you're going to just blanket dismiss all of the authority on it, what the fuck am I supposed to say? What the fuck am I supposed to tell you? What examples can I give you? You will not immediately dismiss out of hand. And Forrest was the best I had because this person knows that I've been drinking with that guy. I know, they like him a lot because he makes me happy as a friend, and whoever makes me happy makes this person happy. So I trust Forrest to a point, and that's the best I've managed to do. But Anthony Fauci, nah. WHO, nah. Psychiatry, nah. NHS, nah. And I'm like,
wow.
What do you do?
I mean, what do you do?
in a case like that, where they've discredited or they're looking skeptically at anyone in a position of authority, including those who are educated in these areas of conversation. So they're setting themselves up as the ultimate authority. They know better based on a gut hunch, based on their ability to read and survey random internet material. So I would look for, and what hits home is going to vary depending on who you're talking with, but I would try and suss out, how do we help them see that they might not be the definitive, I guess, let me rephrase that. Looking for how they might not see everything accurately.
Mm-hmm.
And so are there areas where they misread? So for some, it might be looking at, studies in psychology where it shows, that the, what is it? I mean, just in courtroom testimony, the least legitimate form of evidence is personal memory, because we don't remember things accurately. Of course, in order to show that, in order to do it what might appear to be the most logical way is, well, let's point towards authorities in psychology who have done studies on memory. Well, if they're anti-authority, well, then they're not gonna listen to that either. So you have to almost look for what is the anecdotal experiences of that particular person. Will they be like, oh shit, yeah, you're right, I might not be the single greatest source of authority and verification in everything in life. Oh wait, there might be others who maybe there is benefit towards actually studying something in an academic lens. Maybe there might be others who are a greater source of authority than I myself. But so just looking for, I hate to say it, but for people who distrust authority, it almost has to you almost have to rely upon that subjective anecdotal storyline just to break down, to speak their language, if you will, and help convince them that they're not the fucking genius of all geniuses in everything that ever was.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm hopefully going to enable them to have interactions with people who have lived experience of that, and also, gentlemen, have become pawns in my little scheme, because I could show them this, and anyone else who's having this particular last issue, that they refuse to believe that the word they can be used as a singular pronoun. And yet we have done nothing but refer to them in the first person singular using they. Nobody knows their gender or sex. I have not revealed it and will not. So this is an example that, yes, they is singular. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll let you go if you want.
Oh, you used us, Drew. What a sneaky bugger. Thanks, though, Jamie. I appreciate the call.
Sneaky bugger.
That was great. Well done, Jamie. I love him. He's awesome. He does a lot of hosting on some of the shows. He's great. He's great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm glad that we could be of assistance there.
Yeah.
That was very helpful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good show tonight.
It was great. We have got a few extra little things to do just before we do say goodbye. We have had some super chats. So let's just read out the super chats that we've had. We've had one from Godless Granny. Does John's baby float, or is floating an acquired skill? Is the baby a smaller circle or another shape? Drew, you may know that I refer to myself as the British floating circle. I make videos. And occasionally my baby I will hold him in this booth as I record my stuff, and he'll make a cooing sound, and I'll bring him up on the screen. The baby in day-to-day life is just a regular floating circle. I put on meat form for stuff like this, but the rest of the time I'm just floating around as a circle. So yeah, he comes out floating. Basically, that's how that works. It's like an instinct. You just come out floating like a circle. So I hope that was helpful. I don't know. The lore of the skeptic is very strange. We've had another one from Atlas Die, just dropping a line to say, hi, I can't watch live, but will thoroughly enjoy it later. Love you guys. That's very kind. Thanks, Atlas.
It's fantastic, Atlas. Love you.
And then another one from Dark Wolfie Games. As a very skeptical skeptic, I'm sure Josh will provide the evidence necessary for Man Bear Pig when he's not busy in the ACD creativity / art chat, creating AI propaganda for Canada. Great show.
Holy shit.
Wow, that was a lot. Thanks, though. And like I know earlier we had an issue with being able to pull up the screen, but a massive thank you to all of the crew that make this a possibility. If we can pull up the screen, we'd like to say a big thank you to them. There they are. Look at all those beautiful faces. Oh, with this, like none of this is possible without those folks. So a massive thank you. And thank you to you, Drew, for being on the show. We appreciate it. Let the Truth Wanted audience know where we can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you can find me on all the socials, I think, or at least most of them anyway. Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. I have a very much neglected website, which is just myname.com. So there is that there. It needs to be more attended to. But yeah, you'll find me around conferences and such.
We'll look out for you and go and say hi because he's just such a lovely guy. And there will be a after show on Discord, so do hang around. You can join us there at tiny.cc/ACD Discord. I know that Kelly will be doing his thing there. And also, whilst we're saying Kelly's name, massive thank you to Kelly for being the backup host today. Kelly is just there. I'm sure Kelly lives on all of the ACA shows, just there in backup. Doing the thing.
Thank you, Kelly. You know what we should have done, John?
What's
real
that?
quick. We should have put Kelly's face up over mine, okay? As the backup host, the backup face.
Just get him to like mouth as you're talking.
Fantastic.
That would have worked so well. And just before we go, just a reminder that the prompt, the question for this week is: if psychics are real, why don't they, or why didn't they predict blank? So leave a comment on this video and your comment may well be read out next week. A massive thank you again to everyone involved. Thank you, Drew. We'll see you in the Discord after show if you're going to join us there. But thank you so much for joining this week and we'll see you next time.
Watch the non-profits and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/YTNP.